We're in the Vineyard Springs area, where all kinds of freshwater springs come off of the Wasatch Front Range. Of course, it's a big giant wall that's over a mile high, right? It's 6,000 to 7,000 feet high. Timpanogos is 7,000 feet higher than what we're at right now. And so it acts as a giant wall to stop the weather, and it collects lots and lots of snow and rain. So that's where all the precipitation hits those mountains and it accumulates as snow, and then it eventually goes into the groundwater, and then the groundwater comes through this valley, and then in different places it'll pop up as freshwater springs. Mount Timpanogos used to be have glaciers on it up to about 20 or 30 years ago. But 20 or 30 years ago we could have said it was glacier fed. So the water comes through the groundwater and it pops up. Mostly right here is where it almost always popped up, but different places through the valley, the spring creeks would pop up, and there'd be fish, all kinds of fish and bugs, and the native mollusks and everything would be living in those spring creeks because it was year-round open water. And so we'd have Bonneville cutthroat trout and the June suckers and all the native mollusks and all that kind of cool stuff. But a couple hundred years ago, once the settlers came in here, they started diverting all that water away. And they diverted all these spring creeks for agriculture or for urban development. And what we have now is just a few isolated springs that are coming out through all this urban development. One of the things that people don't realize is that rivers and lakes and the mountains need to be connected. They need to be physically connected. They've always been connected from the mountains all the way through the valleys and into the lake. The springs and the streams and the rivers were connected. There was no disconnect between them. And now there's this huge disconnect from, for example, Mount Timpanogos to here, right? All it is now it pops out, so we have this whole loss of connectivity between those. And that's real important for how rivers and streams evolve and how they're, it's called the river continuum concept. So we lost all that connectivity. That's one thing that we already lost. And that's never going to come back because we're never going to join these springs all the way up to Mount Timpanogos. Now we have all these springs popping up, and they used to have, well, they still had native species like the little fishies, the little minnows. We have a couple minnows that are out here, the leatherside chub and the least chub, and a couple other minnows, the Utah chub. Now we've got all this incredible urban development going on all along the shores, all in the valley, all along the shores of Utah Lake. And we like to talk about smart growth, but this doesn't seem like real smart growth to me. This seems a little bit poorly planned, and they're not really taking into consideration how valuable these spring creeks are. These are tremendously valuable spring creeks to keep Utah Lake alive. And so we've got all this construction going on. They're going to try to reestablish all the fish and stuff, but they need to do a better job. And so these spring creeks used to come through here. There's all kinds of native vegetation that we're working with the crews trying to revegetate some areas up a couple miles north of here with native plants. This place is growing great, right? We've got almost all native. There's some Phragmites, invasive Phragmites, a lot of invasive plants, but just look how thick this is.